Welcome to the Secret of Skinwalker Ranch review, season 4, episode 10. Jimmy, this might have been my favorite episode of the season thus far. What about you?
It's not mine. It was great, though. It was great. Last week, that's kind of hard to top.
What?
Yeah, last week's kind of hard to top, but there was some great stuff in this episode. There's no question about it. Man, you jump in quick.
Heck
I mean,
yeah.
we are just like this is it. No fancy intro and graphics, and it's just like, let's go. So yeah, let's go. There's a lot to unpack, Cristina, in this episode. And I knew we were just talking a few minutes ago as I watched the episode. I was thinking about you the whole time, going, okay, this is all right. This is Christina's wheelhouse. Here's another one. And pretty good stuff. Pretty good stuff. I'm going to save my comments for later because when I say this was a great episode, it was. But I have my own reasons. You know, when I say great, there's got to be something there. And I know that your wait, do I point this way? I know your reasons for what made this episode great are not the same as mine, and this is why this episode is going to be really, really good. This show today. Where do you? Okay, can I start? I'm going to start because the start of the show. Once again, Jimmy gets run over by a bus. I mean, out of the gate, the drilling stops on the top of the hill. And the motor breaks down, and it was revealed. Two things were revealed here. Spoiler alert, people. They only got to 28 feet, 26 feet, 28 feet, 26 feet. Christina's got all the facts. 26 feet, 28 feet, and the motor broke. And then it was revealed that they're going to stop drilling. They're going to take the equipment off the top of the hill, and they will resume this later. That's it. There isn't a season-ending cliffhanger as they break through whatever that is. No, and I'm really bummed about that. I was like, I almost didn't watch the episode. I was done.
Yeah, the intro. No, I feel you. The intro was definitely a letdown, and I thought, oh no, this episode is going to just be filled with disappointment.
And it wasn't. It was a great episode.
But I don't think they should have started off with that.
Oh man, I just see you are as upset as I am about this, but what? You can't replace the motor. You can't replace the drill. They pulled it up. The drill bit was fine. And all of that hard work and the heat and everything and you're just going to stop. Brandon can wing in on a helicopter, but you can't replace that drill. That looks like you got it at Harbor Freight. Just go out and replace the motor, replace the drill, get a bigger drill, and let's keep that project going. But okay, so there you go, people. Drilling's over on the top of the Mesa, which was one of the things that I was looking forward to conclude this season. So that's it. No more drilling on the top of the Mesa.
Well, we don't know for sure. Thomas just said there's going to be a pause for the time being. But Joe Loeb, the guy that was doing the drilling on top of the Mesa, had mentioned that originally it was supposed to be about a foot an hour. That was like the anticipation. But then as the show progressed and he was drilling for about 3 to 4 weeks on top of the Mesa, he was only drilling 3 inches an hour. And then when it got to 24 feet into the Mesa, Joe said that it couldn't really go any deeper. It was like hitting something really hard. And then at 25 feet, the drill locked up and the engine went dead. So the engine was blown. It was totally just ruined. And Thomas and Caleb were saying, "Wasn't this a brand new engine? Wasn't it a brand new motor? How did it mess up this bad in such a short time frame?" And there was kind of a speculation that it was hitting a frictionless force field that was just kind of burning up the motor. Now, when they pulled out the drill bit, I mean, it was in pristine quality.
It was pristine, Christine.
It
It was pristine. And you know what? And I'm just not, with all of the money and the experiments and everything else, the cost of firing up one of Travis Taylor's fireworks displays, it's the cost of replacing that motor. So let's fire one less rocket and let's keep the drilling going. That's my opinion. This is I think it's substantial. And anyway, too much other stuff to talk about. The disappointment is there. Everybody can hear it in my voice. I talked about this every single review that we've done on this show. Drill on the Mesa, drill on the Mesa. They finally did, and then they just quit. And
Well, look, I think there must be more to the situation than what we're seeing on the TV show. Because as Eric had mentioned, only 0.7%, 0.7% of what they do on the ranch makes it in that 45-minute episode. But moving on, because yes, that first section was disappointing, and I was like, oh man, but then it got really good because the team, the ranch, they brought in over a power team of great minds, great technology, and great experiments as well. And that's where I think the overall highlight of this episode started, was right after they mentioned the drilling on top of the Mesa, and they bring on Burnett Anderson from Photron cameras. Now, a lot of people in the comments have mentioned, why don't they have him on more often, or why don't they have a high speed camera for all of their experiments? So
that's right.
it was awesome. I was so excited to see what they were going to capture with a camera that takes 2,000 frames a second, which is it's just crazy. Now, originally, when he first came on, they were mentioning that it could take anywhere from 1,000 to 10,000 frames per second. But here during this episode, it was only 2,000 frames, which is still amazing. Don't get me
That's a
wrong.
lot of frames. That's a lot of
Right.
frames.
Right. And so while he was there, Mr. Anderson was there on the ranch, is when they started conducting really interesting experiments, because it wasn't just one, but it was a handful. Jimmy, tell us, what did Eric have in mind for this experiment and the technology used?
Yeah. Okay. So high speed is high speed. It is exactly what you think it is. And it also allows for amazing slow motion,
Right.
right? Yeah, more rockets. And so you have that, and you can really analyze. You've seen those high speed cameras, filming a bullet going through a balloon, and what that reveals, that you just never saw those details until high speed cameras and that technology came out. So that being said, they were going to set up a bunch of experiments to see if they could activate some of the things that were going on. Now, they set up in another area. What's it called? The area on the east side?
It's just called the East Field.
Yeah, the East Field. So they set up in the East Field, and let's just get to the good stuff. So they're reviewing. They okay, they're doing their stuff, shooting rockets, doing this, doing that, but he says, "Wait a minute, I caught something." And so they go back and they look at his footage after there they are firing the rocket, and there it is. This UAP goes across the sky. Nobody saw it. Nobody saw it. Everybody's watching the rockets. Everybody's watching, nobody saw this. But that's the advantage of a high-speed camera. Now, a few things about this. When you see something like this, you immediately go, it's an insect flying close to the camera.
Which
Right?
Bird Dad was thinking. He said, is it a bug? Is it a bird? Can I
100%.
have your eyes on this?
Right, 100%. And I and everybody else, we've all seen those videos, and they look great, but it's a bug, it's a bee, it's a fly, it's whatever, it's an insect. But in this case, it was at a distance away, it was big, and apparently, according to Travis Taylor, from what they could deduce, it appeared and disappeared, by the way, in the footage. It disappeared at the end of the footage. It traveled a half a mile. And by his calculations, it was over 3,000 miles per hour. Now, you can see it in the footage. You can see it. It's there. But nobody saw it with their eyes. And it happened, I think, was it 5 seconds after the launch, Christina?
Yeah, 6 seconds. Now, a lot of people will be mentioning it has to be a bug. And look, I can understand that. Now, I've been analyzing UFO videos for a handful of years now. And something that you do notice with insects coming across a camera, not always, but a lot of the times, that you're able to see a slight, I think another picture right here. Hold on. You can see like a slight little flutter around. You're able to see like fast beating wings. But because this camera is taking 2,000 frames a second, there would be at least one frame where you should be able to see the wings or the aftermath of the wings. Also, with this particular video that was shown on the show, it was a straight shot. Bugs, they're not that consistent. They jolt a little bit from here to there, right? But in this case, for what we saw with this, whatever it is, we're going to call it a UAP, it was a straight shot. And so, in my opinion, it pushes out the idea of a bug going out the window. Now, I could be wrong here. I'm not saying I have all the
I don't think
answers.
you are, Christina. I don't think you are. And let me just say this, and then I want you to continue. In high speed photography and in the still frames of bugs wings are flapping thousands of times per second. So with those cameras, the bugs look like a corkscrew. Okay, do you understand? It looks like a cork because the wings are flapping, and you see a strange shape there, and it looks like a corkscrew. This this high speed imagery didn't change its shape. It was just a very consistent. This is where even I'm the guy that goes, Christina. I'm the guy that goes, that's car lights in the trees. I'm that guy. I will debunk something. If my eyes don't agree with it, I will tell you that. And I've seen a lot of these images over the years. This got me. This was strange. And if the triangulation is right and the distance is right from the camera, so they could calculate the travel, which in this case is a half a mile, then we literally 3,000 miles per hour. And it looks pretty good size too, as well. It doesn't look small. And it just doesn't have the care. A bird flaps. You would see it at 2,000 frames per second. You would see a change of shape. There is nothing. And the only now this is the only thing, and it's not doing it here, that wouldn't change its shape. Okay. And it's a hawk that is diving. Okay. Diving for prey. So that's what a hawk does, right? Puts its wings back, puts his nose down, and goes for it, right? Like a skydiver. Okay, but that's not what's going on here. This is a horizontal. This is straight across. It's not diving. It is just moving straight across, and there is no change in shape. Yeah, yeah. This one got me. This was a really good capture, and you
And
only get this with high speed, cameras, and they have the ability to bring in a company like that with equipment like this. Remarkable, just
I
remarkable.
I would definitely love for Skinwalker Ranch to invest in one of these high-speed cameras to use for every single experiment that they do. But in this particular one, not only were they launching a rocket, but they were also playing with frequencies as well to see how the land would react. And that was really cool about this particular episode. It's not only this experiment, but something else that we're going to cover a little bit later. But what they had noticed was when they were I think it was at the frequency of 192 hertz, and then shooting the rocket at the same time. They saw a UAP not once but twice, one in the daytime and then one at night, going at that frequency of 192 hertz, which was really interesting. Now, in this one in the daytime, it was just the rocket. But what I really liked about this was in this section Travis was doing some quick calculations to kind of give us an idea that this object was only going from point A to point B from one side of the mesa to the other in about 1.1 seconds, traveling at about 3,600 miles per hour. Now, that was really cool. But then moving on to another section, and then they were comparing, right, this footage that they captured on the ranch to the very famous one that we see time and time again. But it was getting more interesting as the show progressed, and in the end, we have to trust that they have sufficient IQ among them to come to a conclusion where that object is concerned. Everything else is just hyperbole and opinion because it cannot be proved solidly either way, I guess. So I don't buy that it was an insect, but hey, you know what? I'm happy to be proved wrong. I have
Yeah,
no issue
yeah,
being
yeah.
proved wrong.
We've got Mick West in the chat, right? Hello, Mick. And Mick and we agree on most stuff. Okay, we do. And I know what Mick enjoys, and putting in the work of debunking stuff, and he's debunked my stuff, and I have no issues with that, none. In this case, Mick is wrong, and that's fine too, right? I'll admit when I'm wrong, and sometimes Mick probably needs to back up and go, yeah. This is something that this is a bit strange. This is weird. So, and that's fine. That's fine. We need people like that to center all of us and to keep us focused, so we're not completely jumping off with our tinfoil hats. But in this case, I am, like I said earlier, Christina, and I mean this. I've been sent plenty of videos, and I bum my friends out. That's a car light in the trees. That's this, or that's this. That's something else in the distance, and where my friends are like, man, we caught this on. No, not everything is a UFO. It's not. It's not. Not everything is a UAP. In this case, though, at 2,000 FPS, I think we got something here. It's very strange.
So then later in the episode, they are playing with more frequencies, different types. But what I would like to say is that everyone has a right to their opinion, and there are so many opinions. So it is really good food for thought when we hear what other people have to mention. Now, looking at this, Eric was playing with different frequencies, while Caleb, Travis, and Eric were a little further out. Not Eric, Thomas were a little further out in the field and kind of feeling out how these frequencies reacted to the land, but also how it made them feel. So when Eric was playing the 192 hertz frequency, Travis had mentioned, I really feel that one. I feel it in my feet. Like
Yep.
that one really resonates with me. And
Right.
hold on to that number because it's going to be relevant a little bit later. But then So they see a UAP going at that after playing that frequency. He's pointing it out. It's us, on this side of the world. It looks like a little blob, which is what we get these days. But it was moving at a really high speed. Also, the camera. We have to remember that the camera guys, they're looking at the team. For them to go really fast into the sky and attempt to find the object is very, very difficult.
It's hard. It's hard. It's hard. I've done it. I've been there. It's a tough thing to do. It's
It is.
now back on this subject. Oh yeah, okay. So the subject of frequencies. This is where being a little naive or a lot naive, not knowing a lot about sound and music and vibration. I don't expect Travis Taylor or anybody else on that team to know or understand vibrations and sound and music and certainly drumming. Everything has a frequency that it vibrates at. Everything. So you can play a tone and a tuning fork, right, for the key of A 440. Boom, and you bang it, and it's vibrating at that frequency. That's what it's doing. Okay, so everything, including rocks and car tires. Oh, you just put up a car, and I say car tires. It doesn't matter what it is. Everything has a frequency. If you put it out there, something in your room will start shaking. Something will start moving. It's just the way sound works. Okay, feedback is another example of that. So finding a frequency, finding a rock that resonates at a frequency of that drum is to be expected. Okay, 100%. So when to capture that on camera with looking for heat changes in rocks, if a rock is vibrating and those molecules and atoms are vibrating and hitting each other, that's how a microwave oven works, right? It's going to heat up. It's going to have a slight temperature change. If you stop the drumming, the vibration will and the rock will then cool down. Very small amounts, but you'll be able to measure it with their sensitive equipment. And we were able to see that there. Okay, so that's the part that I understand Travis and the team going, wow, that's strange. It's at that frequency, and it's only when they stop singing and it's just the drums. Well, they're just experiencing what all musicians already know about. All right, now that's not the crazy part about this scene. Crazy part about this scene was how freaked out they got, the drummers, and they were like, you know what? We're out of here.
Well, let's go back because we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. But yes, that is like one of the biggest things to mention about the show. But they first bring on retired Navajo Ranger John Dover, who has a special place in my heart. He is amazing. He is so humble and calm and kind and very, very smart. He's one of the very few people, part of the Navajo tribe, that has looked extensively into the Skinwalker, which is something that is total taboo for the majority of tribal members. So for him to come forward, talk publicly about this for a handful of decades is amazing. And then they bring in this group called Blazing Bear from Oklahoma. And it's a handful of different tribes, but they're all Native American, to play traditional chants, to play traditional songs. And what they had mentioned on the show, the team, what they had said, and I'm paraphrasing here, and that was the majority of Native Americans do not want to set foot on Skinwalker Ranch. It's too much taboo. It's a big no-no, really. So for these people to come forward and even be a part and conduct the experiment is amazing. And this particular scene I have been waiting for since they showed the first teaser. I believe it was like after episode 4. It says, okay, coming up next. And they show all these guys playing the drum on the ranch. And I'm like, I cannot wait. It's the next episode, right? Well, no, it came on episode 10. But I was thinking, this is what I'm here for. This is what I want to see. And that's one of my favorite aspects when it comes to the show is when they bring Native Americans to tell their stories, to their personal stories, to share legends, or to be a part of the experiments. So, like what Chris Bartell had mentioned in the live chat, this was what so many of us have been waiting for, and we finally got it. And the results that they received was something that blew a lot of people away. Not only the team, but I can also assume here that it blew away the audience that watched this last night as well. So let's and you already touched on it, Jimmy, but let's go ahead and go a little further
Mhm.
because they go on the East Field. They bring on once again David Mason with his thermal technology that he had invented. It was great to see him on the show again. And they placed Blazing Bear near the East Field, but close enough to the Mesa, and they allowed them to start with their chanting, to start with hitting the drum and see how the land would react. And in the daytime, it was pretty okay. Thomas had noticed that where they were, there were really good acoustics and the leaves were shaking a bit, but then when they stomped, the leaves are no longer shaking. But it started to get weird when the sun went down.
And don't forget the petroglyph site. You
Oh,
know,
well, yeah, we
yeah,
can't
yeah,
forget
yeah.
that.
You
Good
can't
point.
forget that. And I think that I think that that was very important. Now, the movement of the leaves, and that just goes back. Remember, everybody, what I had said earlier: vibrations are vibrations, and everything vibrate. Do you know how noise canceling headphones work? Do you know how they work? They work like that. They find the frequency that is violating your ear space and they cancel it out with an identical frequency. Okay, and so that's what's happening here. So the vegetation is reacting. There's certain cells, and could be the water, could be a certain chemical inside of the plant. It's not that the plant is dancing. Well, it kind of is. It's reacting to it, but it's everything in nature, including the rocks on the hill or anything else. I can feel it in my feet. Well, it might be affecting your Nikes. I don't know, but everything has a frequency that it will react to and resonate with. But this was a really this I thought was an exciting idea. There's so many traditions that come into play here. The tone of the drum, the tempo of the drum, what that does for consciousness and everything else. And then some crazy stuff happened.
Right. So, what Eric had noticed on his equipment was that when they were playing the drum, it was at a frequency of 192 hertz, the exact thing that they had played a little bit earlier. And they saw that UAP, and he was like, huh, well, that's really weird. But also, you mentioned the petroglyph, which is really important because a little bit earlier in the episode, they spoke about a previous season, season 3, where John Dover had mentioned that these little swirls that were seen on the walls, on the rocks, were supposed to depict portals. Now, the word portal was dropped so many times in this episode, and I was thinking, this is why I'm alive. This is what I'm living for here because I have
Right.
a soft spot for portals. I do. I'm not going to lie. That's my bias right there. But they had mentioned it a handful of times, alluding to that as a possibility. And they even brought up the ideas that ancient cultures, ancient traditions, ancient religions as well have mentioned that when you are playing with certain frequencies, there's a possibility that it can open portals. Like when they had that Jewish, and his title escapes me, but when he had brought in over a someone from last season to read a Jewish prayer, and they had measured what they could have assumed to be some type of portal with all this temperature fluctuation. But here, okay, because you mentioned the petroglyphs, they are they're doing their stuff, and then night hits, and they have the thermal cameras on. And what they began to realize is that at the same time that they were playing on the drum and doing their chants, the mesa would heat up. And then when they would stop playing, the mesa would cool down. Now, Travis did state that they would need to do this experiment 1,000 more times to see if there really is a correlation between the two.
Mhm.
But for us, the audience, it was pretty weird. And the majority of people would think that there has to be a correlation between the frequency used and the mesa's temperature. But I wish we could have seen that experiment repeated. But aside from that, it was really wild.
So was it I just got a text, okay, at 12:48. So an hour ago from Ariel Bar Zarduk. Is that who was that the rabbi they brought in?
Yes, yes, Rabbi Ariel, thank you guys.
What kind of crazy coincidence is that?
Well, there's no such thing as
That's pretty. I
coincidences
was
in
just
my
like,
world.
you said that, I was like, is she talking about Ariel? And he rides a Harley. He wears a leather jacket. He's pretty down for a rabbi. He's pretty cool. He's a pretty cool dude. And a
Rock
really
on.
but okay, so continuing with this, the next thing that happens, and this is where I was a little skeptical. Okay. All right. I forget who's the lead guy next to Travis that's always in the command center.
Eric.
Eric. Eric Bard, right?
Right.
Right. Okay. So Eric goes, he's right here. I'm sure you've got a shot of the yellow, the streaks that happen at the top of the mesa. Keep going, keep going, keep going.
It's this one.
Where's your, no, not this one. Where the two objects come down into the spiral.
Oh, so we're going later in the show. What? No,
Yeah,
let's talk about the. Okay, okay.
yeah. Okay. Well, we're right there, right there. Okay, so this was important to me. All right, so the red line is the top of the mesa,
Yeah,
and
right.
then as the drumming was happening, these two heat signatures fly down below the mesa. There's two of them, one after another. And the second one kind of turns a little bit to the left or to the west. And this is where this is a heat signature. This is not night vision or something like that. So or full spectrum. This is where I think it could have been birds. Okay. Now, were birds attracted to the drumming? Possibly. They also feel that now you don't have an idea of depth or how far away this is, but it was picked up by the heat. It did have a heat signature, so it wasn't too far away. But the movement of the second one, I'm thinking it was a couple of buds in this case. Now, I'm not saying that it isn't strange, and it's just another instance of something strange happening at the wrong time all the time at Skinwalker. And it's another example of that for sure. I mean, the timing of it is weird. It makes you go, huh? But I'm thinking that possibly could be a couple of birds, Christina, and I don't think it was UAP or something else. The way it was picked up.
A couple of what? I mean, they were large blobs going behind the mesa. I don't think so. They looked
I know, I
almost
know.
energetic.
Yes, 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 yes. If this was full spectrum, if this was a video, you could say that. Right, but this is different. This is a heat signature, so you're looking at the glow of the body heat from a bird, and it looks like a ball, but in reality, it's something much. This is just my opinion. Look, I
I mean,
want to go.
they would be huge birds, Jimmy, if that were the case, like thunderbirds, maybe, like from the legends, the native
Okay,
legends.
I want to go full woo, Christina. But this little thing, I'm not wooing out like I should be. I'm not wooing out. Now, what about okay, so back up. We got to get to the footsteps
We have to.
because that was a pretty strange moment. And when the one of the drummers, he stops, he's got his flashlight, he gets on the radio and he goes, somebody's up here with us. And they all heard it, and they said that it sounded like footsteps that were trying to be quiet. And that sound, right? When you're walking through the gravel and you're trying to because you can't sneak up on anybody, right? You can't, you know what I mean? But you try to walk lightly. And that's what they said. And that caught my attention.
It was, because when you think back to a moment where you had to walk quietly for whatever reason, those that are listening and yourself as well, Jimmy, you have to walk slowly. They're very cautious steps, and they're very slow from heel to toe, right? And so for them to describe it, because not all of the tribal members here, a part of Blazing Bear, saw it. Only the ones that were facing the rocks could see this shadow-like entity, but a lot of them heard what you had mentioned, being cautious with their steps, hearing shuffling sounds, hearing rocks move a little bit. And then John Dover brings in his knowledge and experience, and he says, well, in our culture, we call them shadow people, where you can see them. But then the main drummer had mentioned, well, you can see them, but you can't. You know that they're there, but you can't see it, only in your peripheral. And this isn't the first time that shadow people have been mentioned when it comes to the ranch. A few weeks ago, Jay Stratton had mentioned the story of seeing a shadow person at Homestead 2 on the second floor when there is no second floor at Homestead
Right.
2.
There's no floor.
There's no floor. Exactly. And there have been previous stories as well that have been shared during the Bigelow era where they had seen shadow people. The team members have seen shadow people as well. I think it was captured in season 2, I believe. And so this isn't anything new, but for this brand new group of people to come on the ranch and to experience it, it just adds a little bit more to the puzzle. It's just more data that's being collected, but it scared them so much that they had to walk away. They said, "That's it. That's it, boys. We are leaving. We're going back home to Oklahoma." And again, coming from their background, the Native American background, talking about Skinwalkers. Skinwalker Ranch is total taboo. The fact that they went in the first place takes an immense amount of courage. And for them to experience that, it only solidifies for them, at least in my opinion here, that there is definitely something very strange going on there, as their ancestors have told them for generations.
That's right. That's right. Hold on. I'm having fun in the chat. I've just got to have fun in the chat. Is that okay? Can I step out of bounds? Can I chop? So I do have the ability to chop. Oh, Cristina. No, I would never do that. This is your show. I would never do that. I would do it just for sport, though. This is what this scene, when they were all grouped together, you could tell they were freaked out. They were done. And when I don't know what made the final or what didn't make the final cut. I know what made the final cut. I don't know what was left on the cutting room floor, right? But when they go, and maybe you guys, you want it? No, we're out of here. Well, we would love to have you back, right? And when he said that, I was expecting, no, we're good. Right? I was really expecting that because the look on their face. This is the area where culture comes into play. Now they were there to play their drums and do their ceremony and get some singing on and look at the resonant and see what happens when this goes down next to the petroglyphs at a very important site. I love that and I recognize that. But what the vibrations that they got back from doing that freaked them out. And they heard something and for your security goes up there with flashlights, and armed and is looking around. They don't find footprints. They don't find evidence of anything. And that's comes into that turns around and freaks out them more. Right? It's different if there's footprints up there and somebody was up there poking around. Okay, it's a whole nother situation where there's no evidence of anything, but they heard the footsteps and they saw the shadow. They saw the being. So
and then on the thermal camera, they saw a cold spot right in that area as well.
During the drumming, by the way. That was during the drumming. So you could see the drummer. It was pretty interesting how you saw the frames change. So you could see in those thermal images of them playing the drums and that cold spot appear exactly where that rock is jetting out right here in this image. So you see the drum circle here down at the bottom. Right above it, you see that huge rock that is going from left to right. It was underneath that where the shadow was seen and heard. And then in the thermal imaging, that was the cool spot. Yeah, it was pretty interesting.
It was really cool.
Yeah,
And
I
Cassidy,
really
thank you
like
so
that.
much for that. One thing that I did want to mention before we finish covering today's show, again, probably one of my favorites of the season so far, but going back into these birds that Jimmy had mentioned, but I'm seeing these as light orbs or some type, who knows what it is. But when I saw this, it reminded me of the rumors that have been mentioned when it comes to Skinwalker Ranch, and even Thomas mentioned a few episodes ago, of craft going in and out of the mesa. What if, and this is just a what if question, what if what we're seeing here is some type of interdimensional craft that is not here, not fully there, but you're just able just to kind of see that heat signature that's able to go in and out of the mesa? That's where my mind went. Again, hearing the stories that we've been told when it comes to the ranch, hearing the rumors, and then having Thomas say that about craft not too long ago. And a few episodes back, that's where my mind went. Now, for Jimmy's mind, it was like, okay, just huge birds.
But like I said, it's all happening at the same time. That's what we have to really focus on. It just seems that weirdness kicks off all at the same time. And it's strange. It's a phenomenon. It's a phenomenon. And now the mention of portals and vortexes and time shifts and the GPS and everything, just the 1.6 and everything else that we're dealing with up there. It all happens at the same time. And it's the UAP again, rocket launch and the high speed camera catching that object. This was a pretty good episode. Let's put the drilling aside. I've got to wait until next season. Okay, all right. I don't know. Maybe they'll bring in another drill. Maybe there's I don't know. Man, I was so bummed out about that. But this was an excellent episode. What I didn't watch. I don't watch the sneak previews of the next episode.
Well, here's the thing. Next week's episode looks like it's going to be a big one.
Well, they do that every episode.
But this one looks extra big.
Okay, so I immediately when I hear Brandon's voice kick in at the end of the episode, there's lots of strange things coming. Boom, I stop. I turn it off. I don't want to see the preview of next week. But this time I'm kind of bummed that I didn't. So
You should go back and watch it.
I'm not. So what do you think is going to happen next week?
I hope we get answers. That's for darn sure. But it seems like there's going to be more experiments, more scientific experiments that will be conducted there, and that's what so many of us like to see. So we can only stay tuned and see what happens. But I would like to mention that coming up at 2:30 p.m. PST in about 15 minutes time, a deep dive interview with Pete Kelsey on my channel, who has been a regular guest on the ranch and on the TV show as well.
Pete. Yeah.
Pete's amazing. And so he started out as a complete skeptic when he first arrived on the ranch. So this will be eye-opening for many who are skeptical. So definitely catch this interview here. It premieres in about 15 minutes. Jimmy, thank you so much for doing this review with me. It's, you know what, it's always fun.
It's so much fun. Everybody behave and be well. Tonight, what am I doing tonight? Oh, Chris Garetano. He's a director, he's a filmmaker, and a researcher. He did the Montauk Chronicles, and that was a huge viral hit many years ago. He's done a lot of great stuff. Anyway, he's got a new A Haunting We Will Go is the name of the new film project he is working on, and that is getting ready to get released. And so tonight, director, filmmaker Chris Garetano joins me on Faded Black. So I'll see everybody tonight. Cristina, again, a great review. Looking forward to next week.